Let's kick off the year with another fun international collaboration. Welcome to my contribution for Meg's from Meg Journals annual junk journal January. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. If you're not familiar with my channel, I am a junk journaler on YouTube since 2018, sharing the making of junk journals and ephemera, as well as inspiration for playing in your junk journals. So Junk Journal January is a free month-long challenge to inspire you to create in your journal. Feeling stuck on a prompt or looking for creative ideas? Each day throughout the month, you'll find a new video from a different creator on YouTube. In the description box under this video, you can find a link to a playlist with all the participants, and we hope you will find tons of inspiration for working in your own journals. Meg has also created a fabulous website this year with all the relevant information, downloads, links to the 30 creators, and lots more. Thank you, Meg, for getting us all together again. I am super pumped to get started. So I will be making 2 journaling cards for my Defemorember journal. If you have not heard of Defemorember, this was a December daily series with my friend Louisa Heinzel, who's also participating in Junk Journal January this year for the very first time. So Louisa and I hosted this series during December, making ephemera also using a prompt list. I will link that playlist for you as well in case you missed our series and need more inspiration. So this is the beautiful journal Louisa made for me. You can find a full flip through in the Defemorember playlist linked below as well. And my prompt for today is stained. So the inspiration for today's projects came from one of the projects that I made during Defemorember, which are these. So these are big tickets, and I love the staining on the background here. So I want to do more of that. And the first page I want to add something to is this one here with this neon bag here. It's a package of guitar strings, and I want to make something to fit in here. So I started off by cutting a piece of cardstock to fit into this pocket. So that's going to be my base. And since I want to add a little bit of texture as well, I'm going to add a part of my snippet strip. These are simply torn pieces of paper that I have mounted onto some masking tape. Usually I would make belly bands out of this, or maybe a pocket or a tuck spot, but I've never used it as a background. But I think it would make a really beautifully textured background, so I want to try that this time. Since this card needs to fit into the pocket, I will have to cut away anything that goes over the edges, unfortunately, although I do love the look of the raggedy edges. So I'll cut this off. And then either I could just use this one, or I'll add another one for a super textured background. No, I'm just gonna leave it with the one. And I'm just going to glue down any pieces that are not stuck down well yet. And since I want my color stains to show up really well, I'm going to also add some white gesso, specifically on this side here, to lighten up this whole background. For this, I'm just using a cheap, thin gesso. Whoops, that was a lot. And while the gesso is still wet, I can even make some scribbles in here to add some more texture. So I could maybe add some fake writing, or you could add real writing, of course. Don't know how well we'll be able to read that at the end, but at least we have some more interest going on. So I'm going to dry that. So for this card, I want to start off with some watercolors. This is a set I put together myself. These are artist grade and very highly pigmented. and they are from the company White Nights. You can of course use any watercolors you have. And since the pocket I'm going to put this in is like this neon pink, I want to stick to the bright colors and use the pink and the red and probably also this gray color here. I'm first going to wet my background with water. What the gesso also did is, of course, it primed my surface and made it less porous, which means that the pigments now will spread a lot better. Also, of course, with the addition of the water, we should get a much nicer effect than if we would just put the stains onto a regular cardstock without doing anything to it first. So I'm just taking a regular paintbrush. Let's start off with the gray. I've already sprayed these. So I'll just add some. I'm putting a lot on here because I know that it's going to get lighter once it dries. And I'm just moving it a bit so that it spreads out a little more and make some unpredictable marks. Really hard for a control freak like me. Okay, then I'm going to dry this. So this is what we have now, but this is going to still change a lot, I think. I'm going to add some water again. And then let's add some of the bright pink. Let's let that run a little bit. Okay, again, I'm going to dry this. So now we have this, and look what happened. How fun is this? So the writing that I had put in here now actually looks like I wrote it with a black pen or something. That is really cool. So then let's add some of the bright red as well. I forgot to add the water first. So this is what we have now when that is dry. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous and there's so much interest there. So now we need focal points. I'm going to use these hand-drawn flowers, which I have colored with coffee, and they also have some gold spots on them, which are kind of hard to see. And I have these available as a freebie for you. I shared this during our Defemember series. And you can find this freebie, which has these flowers in different sizes, as well as some other handmade flowers, in the description box below this video. So I can simply place one here and add this one. I want this cut off a little bit. So how about like this? So I'm just gluing those right on. Then I can cut off anything that goes over the edge. Then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine to sew around it and maybe even sew a little bit on the flower stems. I'm not sure yet. And I will choose a bright color, so maybe a pink or a red, because I want that to really stand out. If you don't have a sewing machine or you don't want to sew with the one you have, I've heard that happens as well. You can also use a marker for some faux stitching. So I went with red thread, and as you can maybe see, I also added it to the stems, and I used a small running stitch, and I went around everything twice, and also the stems I went over twice. Next, I'm going to ink this up with Walnut Stain Distress Oxide. I would like the edge defined a bit more and I want it to be darker, so I'm going to take the walnut stain and directly apply the ink pad to my edges. So do you see the difference now? So I'll do that all around my card. Then I want to add some black splatters for some strong contrast. I have a jar here with acrylic paint thinned down a lot with water, and this is always ready to go. This is an idea I stole from Louisa Heinzel, who always has amazing ideas. Oh, look at that contrast. I love it. It really, really needed that. While that dries, let me take you to my typewriter and we will put a sentiment on here. So it says January, the beginning of anything you want. I really like this positive way of starting a new year. So I'll just tear around this with my tearing ruler. So now we still need to cover the back. I have this piece of watercolor paper with some reverse coffee dyeing. This was again part of the Defamorember series, and I will link that specific video in addition to the whole playlist for you. So I'm going to just glue that on the back of my card. This will also give it some more body because even though this is cardstock, it kind of feels a bit flimsy to me. Since we have stitching on the edges might not want to stick well immediately, so I added some more glue and I'm going to clamp these down for a while because I don't want my edges to split up. Once that has dried a bit, I can go ahead and ink up those edges as well. I'm again using my walnut stain. Then I also want to add the words Junk Journal January here on the back. So I'm going to use my clickable alphabet stamps, which I will link for you below this video. And by the way, some of you seem to think that these are magnetic. No, they're not magnetic, but they just stick together because they have these knobs here that go into the corresponding holes on the next letter. I think they're absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to use my jet black ink. My goodness, how crooked did that turn out? We'll just go with it. I have a horrible handwriting and then the pen didn't work, so this doesn't look great, but it's authentic for sure. So what I wrote was, I'm so happy for Junk Journal January. I was sad after Defamorember ended, and this new series gives me the perfect opportunity to use more prompts to help kick off 2023. Prompts are always a fun way to get inspiration when you feel stuck but want to do something creative in your junk journal. Thank you, Meg. So this is piece number 1. So coming back to our journal page, let's see what it looks like once it's in the pocket. And I have the feeling that this pocket is too high and it's swallowing too much of my card. So let's see, maybe we can cut this down the middle a little bit. And then maybe we can bend these outwards. Let's see what that would look like. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot better. Maybe we can make some more interesting folds. Okay, so I'm going to glue those down. And then again, I'll clamp this till that sticks a bit better. So it's been a few minutes. Everything should be stuck down. By the way, these heavy-duty clamps are really good to have on hand for situations like this. These are from the brand Wolfcraft, and I did get these on Amazon, so you should be able to find these, and they have these in various sizes. Okay. These are not stuck down well enough yet. These corners are, but these flaps aren't. But that's okay, I can do that later. But we see now that we see a lot more of the card. And it's also a fun version of a pocket. So the next piece of ephemera that I want to add, no, not here. This is getting quite bulky. It's getting more challenging to work in for sure. Yeah, it was this one here where Louise has made this beautiful tuck spot. I will also link a video where Louise shows how she made these kinds of tuck spots. That is Louise Heinzel, in case that wasn't clear, sorry. For this one, I'm going to use a piece of thick watercolor paper. I'm not sure how thick this is because it's just a scrap, but it feels like maybe 300 GSM. So I'm going to stick this in the tuck spot and then again figure out my measurements. So I'll cut it here and here. Let's double check that it fits after I've trimmed it down. Yeah, that's perfect. So this time I want to stain my backgrounds using Distress stains. I'm going to use frayed burlap from the spray. I'm going to use wild honey from this dauber and rusty hinge from the spray, but I won't use them as sprays. And I think I'll also be adding some coffee. And I'm just going to use this jelly plate, not to make a jelly plate print, but just to use it to put my pigment on. So if you don't have a jelly plate, you can just use a sheet of acetate, for example. But I've never actually done it on a jelly plate, so I thought what a great opportunity to experiment. So I'll start off by spraying some of my coffee. I always keep this in the fridge. It stays good months and months and months without adding anything to it. So I'm just going to dip this in. Of course, we could also just spray the coffee on here, but I just enjoy trying different techniques and see what I like and what I don't like. So I'm going to dry this. I'm happy with this amount of coffee, so I'm going to get rid of the rest. Then I want to add some rusty hinge, and I'll just take it out with this nozzle. And I always like to wear gloves when I use the Distress pigments because they stain your hands so severely that it takes days to get them out again. I'll add just a little bit of water to that. Of course, you could also do this with watercolors or with thin down acrylic paints. Just see what you have and play with it. This is quite strong. I did not expect that, but let's embrace that. So I'll dry this again. So we have this now, which looks quite interesting. And I don't want to waste this, and I should have also done that with my coffee. But I can already go ahead and also put some color on the back side. But I want it lighter there, so I'll add a lot more water and then do the same thing. Okay, I'll dry this side as well. So that's the back side now. That also looks really nice. And since I have some more left, why not add some to the rest of my snippet strip here? Then I'm going to add some wild honey. I'll add some water to that. This always gives you such an unexpected result, which makes it so much fun. That's what it looks like when it's dry. And then I'll add some more water and add some more to the back side. I already have some here that came over. Let's just add some more. So that's our back side now after it's dry. I love it. And since we still have some left, let's add some to our snippet strip. I'm really loving having the pigments on the jelly plate. And then I also want to add this frayed burlap. This will have a lot of contrast, so maybe I want to keep this a little lighter. If you use these sprays, I'm guessing you know, but if you're new to these sprays, always make sure you shake them and if possible even have them laying on their side before you use them so that the pigment completely mixes up. So again, I'm using the nozzle and I think That's all I'm going to add because I really think this is going to be a strong color. And I'll add some water to dilute that a little bit. Let's see. That almost looks like coffee now again, which is fine. I can always add more pigment if I think this is not enough. Yeah, this is not really the color I had in mind. So I'll dry this and then we'll go from there. Yeah, so that is a lot lighter than I anticipated, but that's fine. But I do also want a little darker color. So first I'll use some of this again on my back. And of course we'll add some to our snippet strip. And then I want to go way darker, so I'm going to spray it on my jelly plate. Now let's see what happens. I'm nervous. Oh yeah, that got a lot darker. Okay, let's try this. You might think I've ruined this now, but wait. So I decided now that I also want to add some speckled egg. Bear with me, it's not done yet. I know it looks weird. I'll add some to my snippet strip. I'm not drying the snippet strip in between, so the effects are different than if I dry in between. But I love some of the effects that are already happening here. Very cool grungy spots happening here. So my plan to hopefully save this is to use a stencil over it. I'm going to use this one here by Studio Light. This is what it looks like. The number is SLGR Mask 13. I will link this for you on the Studio Light website, but as far as I know, they are currently unavailable there, but I'm guessing you could find it somewhere else once you have the details. So I'm going to put this over. Then I'm going to use some Satin Matte Color Spray. This is by the company Marabu. It's fast drying, weatherproof, and light fast. And it's climate neutral. That's awesome. But it is inflammable, so please be careful. It has a very strong smell as well. And I am going to remove the stencil and place it on another sheet of baking paper, which will make great collage fodder, hopefully. Yes. Gorgeous. So this is what it looks like when it's dry. It's completely matte. And I think this already looks so much better. Then I, of course, want to add a focal point. I have my little basket here with all kinds of goodies that I could add. And one thing I think would work really well here is this fence, which I've already sprayed. This is from this die cut from Hero Arts. It's called Chain Linked Fancy Die and the number is DF029. I will link this for you in the description box as well. But I do think I want a little more contrast on this. So I think I'm going to add some black spray paint to this. And then I think I also want this butterfly. This is also available in a freebie that I used for a 5 digital item swap. And I will also link the corresponding freebie for you below. I love how the colors of this moth, did I say butterfly before? It's a moth. I love how these colors pop, even though they are very similar to the background colors, but they are of course much more saturated. So let's make this fence pop a little more. I'm going to add some Black Soot Distress Spray. Again, you could just paint it with watercolors or acrylic paint. I think I've never used this one. So after drying it, interestingly, it's not really black. It's more like a dark brown. So let's try that one more time. It's still not completely black, but I think it will provide enough contrast. Yes. So I'll glue my fence down. Then I want to strengthen this moth. I currently have it on a regular copy paper. I won't need the feelers. I'll be making some of my own. So I'll adhere that onto a thicker cardstock. Okay, so now it's nice and sturdy. I've inked up the edges with Forest Moss Distress ink, just to switch it up a bit, and I thought the color went well with the shades of the moth. And I want to add something on top for the body. And I have these wooden letters that I found locally. And I'm thinking, let's try the J for January. I won't leave it in this color, but I think that makes an interesting body. I wonder if I could... Oh, you know what I could do? I could file away the top edges to make them more round, to look more like the moth's head maybe. So I have a sanding block here. Let's just give this a try. Let's try that again. Yes, I like that shape a lot better. So let's add some color. Let's try rubbing it into the Forest Moss Distress ink. That is not bad, and it looks beautifully distressed. I just want to get those edges as well. And for those hard to get to parts, I can use my little dauber here. So now it looks a lot better, doesn't it? But before I glue anything down, I want to add the moth's feelers, which will make it transform into a butterfly. So I have some wire here. I don't know what strength it is. It's fairly thin. I'm going to clip off a piece. Then I'll bend the bottom so that I have like this V or U shape. And then I'm going to take my round pliers. These are used for jewelry making. And I'm going to grab the top of one of the ends and just turn it down a few times. I'll do the same for the other end. So I have this now. And I can simply tape that onto the back, squeeze the ends together a little more. And these feelers identify the butterfly as a butterfly. I'm sure there's other criteria, but this is definitely one of them. If the feelers are pointy and don't have this ball at the end, it's a moth. So now we can also glue down our January J. And finally, we can glue down the moth itself. I'm just going to glue down the middle part. Next, I'm going to define the edges using my Forest Moss. This makes all the difference, doesn't it? And once I've done that, I'm again also going around it using the ink pad directly. And then this one definitely needs some splatters as well. I'm going to try some bronze splatters, and then we'll see if we need more contrast. And I just decided I also want a few very small black splatters. So this is what I have so far. Everything has dried. I keep thinking something is still missing, especially up here. I would like some more contrast. So looking back at this page, I see that Louisa has used this number stamp here. This is from the Tim Holtz Field Notes, I believe. So that's something I could add to this card as well. So I have the field notes set here. Yep, this is the number that Louisa used. I'll use this one here. Yeah, why not use the same one actually? And then maybe this one. So I'll use 3 different ones. And I'm using jet black ink because I want a nice, dark, crisp contrast. I think that's just what it needed. And now it looks like these were meant to be together. This is what the back looks like. I can add some journaling at a later point. So tomorrow, January 4th, we have the prompt Decorated Tag with Rachel from Roxy Creations. Check out the previous 2 videos if you haven't seen those already. As a reminder, the playlist is down in the description box, as well as all the other information you need to participate. Thank you so much, Meg. It's always a pleasure. Love you guys. Mwah! Mwah!
Every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold